Let's tell the truth no one wants to admit. Every man wants you to detach, not because he wants to lose you, but because the version of you that is detached is the most powerful version of you he has ever met. Detachment sparks desire in ways that most people don't immediately understand. When we talk about detachment, we're not talking about being emotionally unavailable, cold, or indifferent. True detachment is about maintaining your sense of self, your standards, and your peace regardless of what someone else is doing or not doing. It's the ability to care deeply about someone while also being completely at peace with the possibility that they may not be the one for you. And paradoxically, it is this very mindset that creates an irresistible form of desire. When you're detached, you are not reacting out of fear. You're not clinging, chasing, or overthinking every move. You're rooted in confidence, and that energy is felt on a deep, subconscious level. Think about it: when someone is constantly available, constantly chasing, constantly trying to win another person over, it sends a signal that they're valuing the other person more than themselves. That imbalance can feel suffocating and unattractive, even if it's unintentional. But when you're detached, when you're at peace with the outcome either way, you send the opposite signal. You show that you know your worth, and you're not willing to trade it for breadcrumbs of affection. People desire what they can't easily have. It's human nature. And that doesn't mean playing games or withholding affection. It means living a full life that doesn't revolve around someone else's validation. It means that your phone isn't always in your hand waiting for his text. It means your schedule isn't wide open just in case he wants to see you. It means you are busy cultivating your passions, investing in your friendships, and building your own dreams, because you know that love should enhance your life, not become the center of it. Men especially feel the difference when a woman is emotionally detached in a healthy way. It's not something you say, it's something you embody. It's in how you respond when he pulls away. It's in how you don't beg for attention or chase down answers. It's in how you handle silence, how you hold your head high instead of spiraling. That calm confidence. It's magnetic. Because when he realizes that your world doesn't collapse when he disappears, he begins to wonder what's so special about you that makes you so complete without him. That wonder, that's the beginning of real desire. Detachment also creates space for him to step into his role. When you're constantly reaching, over-communicating, or trying to fix things, you leave no room for him to pursue. But when you lean back, you allow the space for him to move toward you. If he doesn't, that's information. That tells you where he stands, and it saves you from wasting energy on someone who was never going to meet you halfway. The truth is, the one who is meant for you won't need you to convince him. He'll feel the value in your presence and be inspired to earn more of it. Another powerful thing detachment does is shift your focus back to yourself. It forces you to ask, what do I want? How do I want to be loved? What am I not willing to tolerate anymore? You start making decisions from a place of self-respect rather than fear of loss. And ironically, it's when you stop fearing the loss that you become someone who's much harder to lose. Because now you're not just emotionally attractive, you're emotionally grounded. You're not asking someone to complete you. You're inviting them to join you. The person who knows they can walk away is the person with all the power. Not power in a manipulative way, but power in the sense of emotional freedom. You are free because you are not shackled by desperation. You are free because your identity is not tied to their approval. You are free because you understand that your worth was never up for negotiation. And that freedom, it's intoxicating. It's rare, it's unforgettable. So if you want to spark true desire, not the shallow kind that fades after the chase, but the deep kind that compels someone to invest, grow, and pursue, don't try to impress, don't try to convince. Instead, detach. Detach from the need to be chosen and focus on choosing yourself first. Show up with love, but never abandon your self-respect. Because once you do, something powerful happens. They stop seeing you as someone they can have at any moment and start seeing you as someone they're afraid to lose. Availability kills mystery, not because showing up is wrong, but because too much access too soon strips away the very tension that fuels attraction. It's easy to believe that the more you give of your time, energy, and emotions, the more someone will value you. But human nature doesn't work like that. What is always there is rarely treasured. When someone knows they can reach you at any time, that your world revolves around them, that you'll drop everything just to accommodate them, it doesn't deepen the bond. It dulls the excitement. It removes the unknown. And without the unknown, there's no curiosity. Without curiosity, there's no pull. Mystery is not about playing games. It's about pacing. It's about understanding that part of what makes something valuable is its scarcity, its unpredictability, its uniqueness. Think about the early stages of dating. What makes it exciting? It's not just getting to know someone. It's wondering how they feel when you'll see them again, what they'll say next. It's the anticipation, the build-up, the gradual reveal. But when one person floods the relationship with availability, texts back instantly every time, initiates constantly, always says yes, always adjusts, something is lost. The intrigue fades. The energy becomes unbalanced. When someone knows too much too soon, they stop wondering. When they stop wondering, they stop investing. Because the truth is, desire isn't just about presence, it's about tension. Not negative tension, but the kind that makes you lean forward, eager to discover more. That tension is created when you live your life on your terms, not constantly pivoting to accommodate someone else's attention. It's when you are sometimes unavailable, not because you're pretending, but because you genuinely have a life filled with purpose and passion. When someone sees that you're not just waiting around for them, but instead you're moving, building, creating, they start to respect your time. They start to ask, how do I get more of this person? Instead of assuming you'll always be there. The modern dating world is filled with mixed signals and overcommunication. It's become normal to believe that availability equals effort. But the most powerful effort doesn't come from quantity. It comes from quality, a well-placed message, a thoughtful plan, a clear intention. That means so much more than constant chatter. When you're always available, you rob the other person of the opportunity to miss you. And if they never get the chance to miss you, they never fully appreciate your presence. Real attraction builds when you allow room for imagination, when you leave just enough space for the other person to wonder where you are, what you're doing, who you're becoming. That mystery doesn't mean being distant or manipulative. It means having boundaries. It means prioritizing your own life over the illusion of closeness. Because the truth is, being available 24/7 doesn't make someone feel closer to you. It makes them feel they've already figured you out. And once that happens, the journey of discovery comes to a halt. Think of it like a great story. A powerful book doesn't reveal everything in the first chapter. It draws you in with subtle hints, emotional beats, and carefully timed moments. If the whole plot was dumped on you at once, you wouldn't feel connected. You'd feel overwhelmed, maybe even bored. The same goes for relationships. Pacing matters. Leaving room for someone to catch up to you matters. When you create a bit of emotional space, not coldness, but space, you give the other person a chance to engage more deeply. They start to pursue. They start to feel something real. And here's something most people overlook. Mystery isn't just about what you don't say. It's about how fully you show up for your own life. It's about being that woman who doesn't answer every call immediately because she's in the middle of something she loves. It's about being that person who doesn't always say yes right away because they're not afraid to ask themselves, do I want this too? That self-respect, that inner life, that independence, it's intoxicating. It makes people want to peel back the layers. It makes your presence feel earned, not handed over too easily. So when someone comes into your world, don't smother the connection by giving them all of you at once. Let them earn pieces of you. Let them experience what it's like to wonder about you, to look forward to seeing you, to not always know what you'll say next. Because the moment you become too available, too predictable, too eager, the mystery dies. And when the mystery dies, so often the desire dies with it. Not because you're not amazing, but because you gave everything before they ever got the chance to earn it. A woman in her power is irresistible, not because of what she says, not because of what she wears, but because of the energy she carries when she walks into a room. It's the way she doesn't shrink herself to be liked. It's how she doesn't beg to be chosen. It's in the quiet confidence of knowing she is enough, with or without anyone's approval. That kind of woman doesn't chase love, she embodies it. She becomes the source, not the seeker. And when a man encounters that kind of energy, it's unforgettable. It doesn't just attract him, it changes him. Being in your power isn't about being loud, aggressive, or hard. It's about being grounded in who you are. It's knowing your value without having to explain it. It's the way you carry standards without needing to justify them. It's in the way you say no without guilt, and yes without fear. A woman in her power moves with clarity. She doesn't chase a relationship. She chooses one when it aligns with her truth. She's not driven by insecurity or desperation. She's driven by purpose, peace, and alignment. This kind of woman doesn't pretend to be unavailable to seem mysterious. She simply is selective with her time and energy because she values herself deeply. Her attention is not cheap, not because she's playing games, but because she knows what she brings to the table. She is emotionally generous, but not emotionally reckless. She gives when it's reciprocated, and she walks away when it's not. That kind of self-possession is magnetic. It makes people stop and take notice because it's rare, because most are taught to mold, to please, to shrink in the hope of being loved. But she doesn't perform for affection. She attracts it by being real. What makes her irresistible is not perfection, it's authenticity. She doesn't pretend to be someone she's not to keep a man interested. She shows up as herself fully, and in doing so, she invites others to do the same. She creates safety, not by sacrificing who she is, but by holding space for vulnerability. And she doesn't fear being alone because she's made peace with her own company. That's the woman who doesn't just capture attention, she holds it because she's not dependent on it. Power, for her, is not about controlling others, it's about mastering herself. It's about emotional regulation, knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, knowing when to stay and when to walk away. She doesn't react impulsively. She responds intentionally. She doesn't spiral when someone pulls away. She doesn't overextend when she feels unsure. She pauses. She reflects. She honors her boundaries even when it's uncomfortable. That kind of control, not over others but over herself, is deeply attractive. It shows maturity, depth, and self-respect. She isn't trying to be hard to get. She's hard to forget because of her presence. Because when she looks at you, she really sees you. When she speaks, she means every word. When she listens, she's fully there. She gives her time and her energy with full intention, and that's why it's so impactful. There's no pretending, no manipulation, no strategy. Just presence. That's the real power. In a world of noise, she is quiet strength. In a sea of approval seeking, she stands as her own source of validation. And when a man meets a woman in her power, he knows immediately he has to rise to meet her. She won't carry the relationship for two. She won't tolerate half love, half effort, or half truths. She won't abandon herself just to hold on to someone else. He either shows up fully or she walks, without drama, without revenge, just calm certainty. And that calm, that peace in her, it's something he will remember long after she's gone, if he ever lets her go. Because she represents something more than romance. She represents what it means to truly know yourself. She is not irresistible because she plays the game better than anyone else. She is irresistible because she doesn't need to play it at all. She's in a league of her own. She's not auditioning, she's already chosen herself. And that kind of woman doesn't just attract a man. She inspires him to be better, to lead better, to love deeper, to stop chasing validation and start matching her strength. Because the woman in her power doesn't just get attention, she transforms the standard for what love looks like. Chasing love repels it, not because love itself is fragile, but because desperation distorts its rhythm. Love in its purest form is magnetic. It draws two people together effortlessly through mutual energy, shared respect, and emotional alignment. But the moment you begin chasing it, grasping, probing, performing, it slips further out of reach. Not because you're not worthy of love, but because chasing puts you in a position where you're no longer attracting. You're pursuing out of fear. And fear is the very energy that drives real connection away. When you chase love, you send a message, whether spoken or not, that says, I need you to choose me so I can feel enough. That message doesn't create closeness. It creates pressure. It turns connection into a transaction. If I give more, if I stay longer, if I sacrifice myself enough, maybe you'll stay. But love doesn't respond to that kind of sacrifice. Healthy love doesn't come from proving your worth to someone else. It comes from standing in your worth and letting the right person recognize it without force. The chase is often rooted in the fear of being alone. It's the belief that if you don't do more, try harder, hold tighter, they'll leave. But in reality, it's that very behavior that often pushes them away. Because when someone feels like they're being chased, it implies imbalance. One person is leaning in too far while the other is leaning out. And when you chase, you're not leaving room for them to step in. You're doing all the work, filling all the silence, solving all the problems, and slowly losing yourself in the process. Love doesn't need to be hunted down. It needs to be received. And receiving means you trust that you don't have to run after what is truly meant for you. When you chase love, you're focused outward. You're constantly analyzing their behavior, trying to decode their silences, bending to fit their world. You abandon your own rhythm just to be in sync with theirs. But real love isn't about merging into someone else. It's about two whole people walking beside each other, both choosing, both investing, both leaning in with intention. Chasing also creates emotional chaos. You overthink every text, worry about how you're being perceived, question your value based on their reaction. That anxiety becomes exhausting, not just for you, but for them. Because love isn't meant to be earned through pressure. It's meant to evolve through presence. And presence can only happen when you're not stuck in fear. When you're calm, centered, and willing to let go if your needs aren't being met. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop controlling. You stop trying to make someone feel something they either can't or won't. You give space for the truth to rise. Because the one who wants to be there will move toward you when there's room. But when you're always in pursuit, always filling the silence, always pushing for connection, there's no space for desire to build. No space for them to miss you, to wonder about you, to choose you freely. You have to trust that the kind of love you're worthy of doesn't need to be chased. It needs to be met halfway. It requires effort, yes, but mutual effort. Balanced effort. You giving your all while they give half is not love. It's a pattern that leads to resentment, burnout, and heartbreak. When you stop chasing, you shift the energy. You return to yourself. You stop giving to get, and you start giving from overflow. You stop performing, and you start attracting. There is nothing more powerful than someone who is open to love but unwilling to beg for it. That person is magnetic because they are not waiting to be completed. They are simply waiting for someone who recognizes what's already whole. And in that wholeness, they don't chase, they observe, they allow, they move on when they're not met. And that calm, detached confidence, it's what makes the right person lean in. Not because they were forced, but because they want to. Because love, when it's real, doesn't need to be chased. It chooses you just as much as you choose it. Emotional detachment is not indifference. It's not about being cold, uncaring, or unbothered. It doesn't mean shutting down your heart or pretending that nothing affects you. Emotional detachment is something much deeper and far more powerful. It's about creating emotional space that protects your peace while still allowing you to love fully. It means having feelings without letting those feelings override your logic, self-respect, or standards. It's the art of staying centered in the storm, holding on to your identity, even as you open your heart to someone else. Many people confuse emotional detachment with apathy. But apathy says, I don't care what happens. Emotional detachment says, I care, but I won't lose myself in the process. That distinction matters. Because when you're emotionally detached in a healthy way, you can love someone without letting their behavior dictate your sense of worth. You can hope for a relationship to grow, but you're not dependent on its outcome to feel complete. You can be invested yet unattached to the result. That balance gives you power, not over them, but over yourself. The truth is, attachment can often turn love into obsession. It makes you feel like you have to hold on, to control, to fix, to please. You start tolerating disrespect, excusing inconsistency, and making yourself small just to keep someone close. You live in anxiety, waiting for the next text, the next call, the next validation. That's not love, that's emotional dependency. And when you detach emotionally, you don't stop feeling. You simply stop tying your emotional stability to someone else's behavior. Emotional detachment allows you to see things clearly. It gives you the space to evaluate whether a connection is truly serving you, rather than blinding you with need. It means you don't ignore red flags because of how much you want something to work. You can acknowledge how you feel and still choose what's right for your long-term well-being. It's not that you stop loving, it's that you learn how to love without abandoning yourself. This kind of strength is incredibly attractive. When someone sees that you can feel deeply but stay grounded, that you can be present without being desperate, they recognize that you're not emotionally reckless, you're emotionally disciplined, you're not there to be saved or completed. You're there to connect from a place of wholeness, and that kind of presence is rare. That's what makes it unforgettable. People often think that being emotionally available means being emotionally vulnerable at all times, but availability without discernment isn't vulnerability, it's exposure. When you're emotionally detached, you know when to open up and when to observe. You know when to lean in and when to lean back. You don't feel the need to explain yourself endlessly or prove your worth. You let your actions speak, and you allow others to reveal their intentions through theirs. That's not indifference, that's mastery. And mastery doesn't come from numbing yourself. It comes from feeling everything fully and still choosing to respond, not react. It comes from loving deeply and still knowing you'll be okay if it doesn't work out. It's not a wall, it's a filter. A way of keeping the love in without letting chaos in with it. A way of protecting your energy while staying open to the right kind of connection. The beauty of emotional detachment is that it gives love a chance to be real. Because love that only exists under pressure or control or fear isn't love, it's survival. But love that can breathe, love that is chosen freely, love that grows without force, that's the kind of love that lasts. And it starts with you. With your ability to step back when needed, to observe without panicking, to stay calm when things are uncertain. So no, emotional detachment isn't about shutting your heart down. It's about opening it wisely. It's about choosing peace over panic, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over self-sacrifice. It's the decision to love without losing. And when you master that, you stop chasing connection. You attract it, not through fear, but through strength. Not through control, but through presence. You show up fully and let others meet you where you are. And if they don't, you walk away. Not because you didn't care, but because you finally cared enough about yourself. Men crave the challenge not because they want to play games, but because true desire is sparked by effort, by uncertainty, and by the experience of earning something valuable. A challenge isn't about manipulation or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about maintaining your sense of self, your standards, and your emotional independence no matter how much you like someone. It's about being the kind of woman who doesn't just hand herself over emotionally before someone has shown that they're worthy of that depth. That is the real challenge, staying grounded in your worth while still being open to connection. When a man meets a woman who knows who she is, who doesn't need to be rescued, who doesn't drop her life to fit into his, he pays attention. Not because she's distant, but because she's different. She doesn't seek validation. She doesn't need attention to feel important. She has her own rhythm, her own purpose, and a sense of peace that doesn't get thrown off by someone else's behavior. That calm self-possession is the challenge. It's the magnetic force that makes a man lean in, not because she's playing hard to get, but because she is hard to forget. A challenge isn't created by being unavailable. It's created by being selective. She doesn't say yes to every invitation. She doesn't entertain half-hearted efforts. She doesn't accept breadcrumbs and call it a meal. She knows that access to her life, her time, her heart is something that must be earned. Not because she thinks she's better than anyone, but because she respects herself deeply. She knows that being chosen isn't the goal, choosing wisely is. And that level of clarity is rare. Men, whether they admit it or not, are drawn to the chase not because they want difficulty for the sake of it, but because value and effort are tied together. When something is handed over without thought, it's easy to take for granted. But when something or someone requires attention, intention, and consistency, it becomes real. It becomes meaningful. It becomes personal. When a man has to rise to meet your standard, he has to become better in the process. He starts to invest emotionally, not just because he wants you, but because he's becoming someone who deserves you. This doesn't mean being rigid or withholding affection. It means you give in response to being shown consistency, not in the hope of inspiring it. You don't overgive, you don't overexplain, you don't overstay. You let the relationship build naturally, with equal investment. That's the challenge. To stay soft while staying sovereign. To stay open without abandoning yourself. To show interest without offering yourself too soon. That's what makes a woman unforgettable, not her beauty, not her charm, but her ability to hold her space and let someone earn entry. Men crave the challenge of a woman who has a life. Who doesn't just talk about her dreams, but lives them? Who doesn't make a man her entire world, but invites him into it with grace? She's not rushing to define the relationship in week one. She's not panicking if he takes a step back. She watches, she listens, she decides. Because she knows the right man won't be scared off by her strength. He'll be inspired by it. That challenge isn't about ego, it's about energy. Masculine energy wants to pursue, to provide, to protect. When you do all the emotional labor, when you plan everything, when you carry the weight of the connection, you rob a man of the very experience that makes him bond with you. He needs to feel like he's contributing, that he has a role to play, that his presence matters. When you're too available, too eager, too giving before it's earned, you take away that space. The right kind of challenge doesn't repel men, it reveals them. The wrong ones will fall away. They'll say you're too much, too independent, too strong. But the right one, he'll rise. He'll see you not as a game to win, but as a woman to value. He'll lean in, not just because you're beautiful, but because you challenge him to be more present, more intentional, more alive. And that kind of love doesn't burn out. It grows. It deepens. Because it was built on respect, not desperation. On mutual pursuit, not one-sided effort. That's the kind of love that starts with challenge and ends with commitment. Detachment reveals true intentions because when you step back and stop chasing, the real nature of a connection comes into focus. It's easy to get swept up in feelings, to gloss over inconsistencies, and to convince yourself that someone cares as much as you do when you're the one constantly reaching out. But when you detach emotionally, when you stop responding instantly, stop over-explaining, and stop bending over backwards to keep things going, you create a natural filter. This filter sifts through the noise and shows you who is genuinely interested and who is merely passing time. Detachment isn't about shutting someone out or playing games. It's about protecting your energy and letting things unfold with clarity. When you detach, you give space for people to show up authentically, without your presence filling in the gaps or covering their absence. It's in that space where true intentions become visible. The people who want to be part of your life will lean in. The ones who don't will quietly fade away. It's not personal. It's simply the universe's way of helping you see who values you and who doesn't. Too often, people stay hooked on relationships or connections because they misinterpret attention for affection or availability for commitment. Detachment changes the dynamic. When you stop chasing, you stop mistaking temporary interest for lasting intention. You allow yourself to observe actions over words, consistency over promises, and genuine effort over convenience. That's where truth lives, not in the excitement of a new message or the hope of a next date, but in the pattern of behavior over time. By detaching, you reclaim your power. You no longer tolerate mixed signals or uncertainty just to keep a connection alive. Instead, you set a quiet standard that says, I'm here when you're ready, but I'm not waiting forever. And that boundary is clarifying. It forces the other person to ask themselves what they really want. Because when someone realizes you're not desperately clinging, they either rise to meet your energy or they reveal that they were never fully committed in the first place. It's a simple truth. People don't always say what they mean, but they always show it. Detachment helps you pay attention to those actions without the cloud of need or desperation. When you're emotionally attached, you might excuse excuses, rationalize neglect, or ignore red flags. Detachment allows you to see those behaviors in sharp focus. And when you see clearly, you make better decisions for your heart. The process of detachment is not easy, especially when feelings are involved. It requires discipline, patience, and a deep sense of self-worth. It's about choosing your peace over the anxiety of chasing, choosing your clarity over confusion, choosing yourself over the fear of being alone. And as hard as it might be at first, that choice frees you to attract what you truly deserve. When you're detached, you also invite honesty, not just from others, but from yourself. You ask yourself tough questions. Is this relationship reciprocal? Am I being respected? Am I truly happy or just afraid of being single? These questions might be uncomfortable, but they're necessary. Detachment creates the emotional space where these truths can surface without judgment or denial. Moreover, detachment encourages emotional resilience. It teaches you to be okay with uncertainty and to trust the timing of your life. Instead of rushing to fill the void with anyone willing to show up, you learn to wait for the right person, someone whose intentions align with yours. That patience isn't passive, it's active self-care. It's a commitment to your own well-being and emotional health. When you detach, you stop chasing illusions and start recognizing reality. You stop investing in what could be and start appreciating what is. This shift transforms not only your relationships, but your entire approach to love. Instead of desperately searching for validation outside, you find it within. And that internal validation becomes the foundation for healthier, more fulfilling connections. The beauty of detachment is that it's not about pushing people away. It's about inviting the right people closer. It's about creating space where genuine connection can grow naturally without force or desperation. It's about honoring your worth by refusing to settle for less than sincere intentions. In the end, detachment reveals true intentions by stripping away the distractions and revealing the core of what someone really feels and how much they're willing to invest. It separates fleeting interest from real commitment, shallow words from meaningful actions, and convenience from desire. And when you learn to detach, you no longer waste your time or energy on those who aren't truly meant for you. Instead, you open yourself to those who show up fully, consistently, and with clear intention, because only those connections are worth your heart.